Hello, welcome to this week's Craft and Chat. Oh, I'm all a bit wonky. Hang on. Let's readjust to that camera a bit. It's Craft and Chat. It's Tuesday, the 15th of October 2024. Thank you so much if you are joining me today live, or if you're watching on the replay. Can we have a sound and light check? I ask this on every single one of my live videos, just to make sure that I am live where I should be and you can see and hear me clearly. So let's have a look. Aha! Well, that's a really good start, because hello to Michelle, who's on Facebook, and Scylla, who's on YouTube. So I guess I'm live everywhere I should be. So how are we today? Are we keeping well? Have you been busy? We've been busy. Although we had a less busy Sunday, bit more of a chilled Sunday. You know, we can't do the bathroom all the time. But yeah, we got other jobs in the house done. So you know the things that need to be done to keep life moving on. But not a lot really has happened in my world in the past week, which is unusual for me and my crazy schedule. But excuse me, thank you for all the messages I had about cake after last week's conversation about cake. Yeah, I'm loving the cake. I had a few recipes sent to me as well, which was really good. So I should be busy baking soon, although I still haven't made my Christmas cake, so that's the next bake on the list. So Donna's here. Australia is in the house. Oh, my little sign's not on. Hang on. You like my little sign? I've got to scroll it through all the colours. There we go. And Margaret's here. Hello. So I'm saying I haven't really had a busy time. Actually, what I am doing is sorting out the 5 classes that I've got to get out in the next 10 days. So what have we got? We've got team day, we've got the Christmas retreat, we've got Christmas stamper stack, we've got in-person Christmas retreat and craft along times 2. So it's actually 6. But the second craft along, to be fair, doesn't necessarily need to be done in the next 2 weeks. So my office is full of bathroom stuff and full of products to get sent out in the post, and die cut pieces and bits of ribbon and stamp sets, and it's all going on here. But we just have to keep working through. Just chip it off the list and move it on. Margaret's been making Christmas cards. Hooray, hooray. Well done. So I have a question for you today. What type of crafter are you? So I guess it's kind of a 2-part question, really. So what type of crafter are you, as in what type of crafts do you do? So if I start, I'm a paper crafter, and included in my paper crafting is card making, scrapbooking, memory keeping, home decor, boxes, bags, all those kinds of things. That's what I mean by paper crafting. I'm a paper crafter. I'm also a yarny crafter, so I crochet and I knit. I do, but I haven't for a while cross stitch as well. And I've dabbled in lots of other crafts, but currently they are my main ones. So that's my first question. So what kinds of crafts do you do? And the reason I'm asking is because it's really interesting to know all the different sorts of crafts, because I know that there are really clever people out there that can sew and that can do pottery and that can do painting or all kinds of stuff. So I would love to know what types of crafts you do. So that's my first question. And then my second question, which is the one that I'm also really interested in, is, are you a messy crafter? Or do you consider yourself a messy crafter? I absolutely am. I am a messy person most of the time. I am. It's just there's a way my brain works. I get everything out. I use all the things, but at the end of the day or the end of the crafting session, I tidy everything up and I put everything away. And it's only been the last few years actually that I've done that. Before that, I would just walk away from it, just go, yeah, I've had enough. But now I've learnt that I'm much better to start crafting again in a clean space than when I go to craft and it's messy already. Does that make sense? And it's actually it's actually interesting. Personality types of crafters too. As I've said many times here, my husband Brian is an amazing creator. He builds things. He can make things out of metal and wood and cabinets and just amazing things. And he is really tidy. Even when he's working, he's really tidy, and he knows where everything is, which is amazing, really. But my brain just doesn't work like that. So I've had to train myself to put everything away. But I was the reason I'm asking the question is because I was talking to a lovely customer the other day, and she was saying she'd been watching me on YouTube. I don't know which video it was, but she'd been watching me and I was cutting something out and I just scooted all of the cut pieces off to the side of my desk. And she said, why don't you just cut it into like a little bin or a little basket, and then you wouldn't have to tidy it up again later? And I'm going, what? And she said, yeah. So she has like a little, I don't know, I guess it's like a little plastic container like this. And she puts it on her desk when she's fussy cutting, and the bits fall straight into it and she puts it in the bin. Now, I thought that was very interesting. I don't know that I'm going to be doing that, but I can see, because it actually stops an extra task, because actually what I do is I just scoot it to the side and then I scoot it in the bin. But yeah, so those of you that are tidy, and I think there will be some, I think there will be tidy crafters, let me know all your hints and tips and I'll see. I am fussy cutting today. This is why this whole conversation started. I am fussy cutting today and I haven't got a bin to put the stuff in. It's just going to be all over my table. But what I will do, when I'm doing a lot more crafting, because at the moment I'm doing prepping for classes as opposed to making. When I start doing a lot more making, I will take you some pictures of my of my workspace in full flow. I think you will be amazed at how I can actually create anything in the mess. So there we go. So let's have a look. Who else has arrived? Chris and Angela from Newbury. Mum's here. Hi, Mum. Pauline's here for everyone else. Chris knits for enjoyment and does occasional crochet and embroidery, plus beading and card making for fundraising. Donna does paper crafting, knitting, crochet, stump work, embroidery, macrame, jewelry, and beadwork, plus a bit of sewing. Wow. Margaret's a messy crafter with stuff everywhere. I do tidy up afterwards, though, and I do a lot of knitting for charity and learning to crochet. Yeah, Donna's saying she's messy. Ah, now I've explained what I call a messy crafter. Donna thinks she's tidy. She cleans up as she goes. Yeah, so I don't clean up as I go. I clean up at the end when I'm finished, usually. So I'm just trying to think. When did I do a few? Well, oh no, it was some time ago when I was designing the Christmas retreat projects. So there's I don't know, 16 projects, something of that nature. There's a lot of projects, and when I'd finished doing one part of the class, I packed everything up and then I started again. So if I'm kind of switching from, colors or stamp sets or that kind of stuff, then I do stop, clear up and start again. But when I'm in mid flow, no, I just leave everything out. Which is why sometimes I have to make things again because they fall on open ink pads and stuff. Sue's here. Hi, Sue. You keeping well, lovely? She's baking bread. Oh, yeah. I think it's getting near bread baking and soup making season, isn't it? Okay, so keep the comments coming. I want to know. So my questions for you today are, what type of crafts do you do? And are you a messy crafter? So you need to put those in the comments. In the world of Stampin' Up, there is still the promotion about joining my team. You get £160 worth of products. I talk about this all the time. I talk about joining. You get a discount on your products, 20% on everything. You get to see new products first. You get to hang out with us. It's an amazing community. I would love you to join my team. Just send me a message and let me put my email address up. Just send me a message and I'll send you the information. And I know it sounds too good to be true. £99, £160 worth of products that you get to pick, and there's no postage. It's like, yeah, okay, where's the catch? No catch. No catch. But you'll have questions, so email me. So that would be good. So that's going on, but we've also got a kit sale going on. And what I am going to do is very quickly pop over to the Stampin' Up website. And the reason for that is I came upstairs early to get set up and sorted out, and my monitor wouldn't work. So I've had to unplug everything, replug everything. You know the drill. If a computery thing doesn't work, you switch it off. And then you switch it all on again. And then you wiggle the wires. Hope there's no IT people around. But you wiggle the wires and you hope that it's going to work. And thankfully it did. But it took longer than I had thought. And I wanted to talk to you about the kits. But I wanted to make sure that the kits I'm going to talk to you about are still in stock. Because, you know, that would be frustrating. And I am seriously pleased because one of the kits I was going to talk to you about is currently unavailable. And the other kit is currently unavailable. So we won't do that then. Darn. Okay. Obviously, everyone's been buying the kits. So, okay. When they come back into stock, I will talk to you about them again. Sarah's here. Hello, hello. Sue is definitely a messy crafter. Ooh. Sarah loves sewing. Currently making some bunting for a nursery. That's awesome. So I have never been a sewer. I did try when I was at school. I tried. I'm just really not that good at it. I'm not very patient. And I absolutely do not have space to store fabric as well as everything else I store. So, yeah. So no sewing for me. What's Elizabeth doing? So Elizabeth does card making, scrapbooking, cross stitch, embroidery, knitting, machine sewing. Ooh, and probably more, but she can't remember all the things. Right. So she's a messy crafter, but everything has a place, so it's easy to put everything away at the end of a project. Yes. So that's the other thing that my darling husband has taught me. That everything needs everything needs its home. So I know where everything is in my craft room. That's almost true. I can't find my glue gun. But other than that, I know where everything is in my craft room. So if I need something, I know where it is. And all of my inks and all of my stamps are all out. So I can see exactly what I've got and everything else. Don't let the smoke out of anything electrical, says Donna. Yes. Yeah, don't put the electrics in the water. No. Okay, so since I can't show you, since I can't show you the kits that I was going to show you, I'm going to start crafting. And that's good because that just means we've got more crafting time. Today I am. Ooh, did I actually bring the stamp box upstairs? No. Okay. Let me see if I can see it. I'm looking on the index and I can't find it. Hang on. Page 90. Here we go. Okay. So this stamp here, it's called the Leaf Collection. This is what I'm using today. And it is a background stamp. Now, background stamps are enormous. So this is, let's have a look. It is 5 3/4 inches by 4.5. If you're a centimeter person, that's about 14.5 by 11.5 centimeters. They are huge. You need an F block, which is the biggest block that we sell. And I don't know whether you've ever noticed, but I have quite little hands. And my hand span, ooh, I can't even do it, only just reaches across the block. And for that reason, it makes it more difficult for me to use these background stamps. Now, we did have, and I know many of you still have, a stamp positioning tool. So we used to have a Stamparatus, and I know many of you've got them, and there are other brands on the market, I'm aware. Hopefully one day we will get a Stampin' Up one back. But if you've got that, they are great for this kind of background stamp. But if you haven't, what I want to do is give you a few hints and tips of using it, finding different ways for it to work for you. And then I've got a few cards to make. So, and I was about to say there's no blue anywhere. That's a lie. There is blue, but only a tiny, tiny bit. Yeah, there's lots of stuff. So let's get rid of the catalogue, turn the camera around, and get started. Let's see. Right, so I know that as I was messing around with the monitors and stuff earlier, I knocked the camera. So let's see. Okay. Hi, Anne. You're just in time for the crafting. Okay, so like I said, this stamp is Mahusive. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, I don't know how well you can see that, but can you see there's like lots of little air bubbles? There's a really huge air bubble there. It is important to try and make sure that when you stick this on your block, it's stuck well. And there are a few air bubbles as you can get in it. You'll get little ones, but I mean like big air bubbles. So make sure you give it a really good press. I trim my stamps. I haven't trimmed a huge amount off this, but if it's too big for your block, then just get a pair of scissors and just trim it off a little bit. So there's a bit of a bubble there going on. Okay, I'll sort that out. Okay, so the first thing to say is when I teach somebody to stamp, I always tell them to hold a stamping block in two hands. And I think as we get more experienced and as we craft and we're in a rush and everything else, we switch over to stamping with one hand. Lots of people do that. Now, you're going to struggle to do this one-handed anyway because it's heavy. But like I said, look, my hand only just reaches. So the first thing I would always say is when you're using a big background stamp like this, rest your little fingers on the table. So let me put the stamp away. So like you're having tea with the Queen. And I'm talking about Elizabeth the second. Like you're having tea with the Queen. Rest your little finger on the desk and then hold the stamp and stamp down. And what that does is it makes you steady and makes you stable. And if you've got a little bit of a wobble in your hands, that will really help. So when you're stamping with a stamp this size and you press it down, it's much easier to press it down with 2 hands. So the next thing is, once it's down, keep hold of it with 1 hand and press over the top. You need to make sure that you've got pressure on it with 1 hand all the time, and then press over the top and then lift it straight up. Okay, so that will give you even pressure across. Now, there is another way of inking and getting ink onto your card, and the way you can do that is to use your grid paper. So you get your big background stamp, ink it up, then you get your paper, your cardstock, and you pop it down gently over the inked stamp. Then bring this part of your grid paper over the top and rub gently like this. Once you've done that, lift it up and then peel it up, and you'll have your inked area. Now, that is a really good way of making sure you get the whole background stamp on your piece of card, because sometimes if you've got your card there and you're going down over the top, you might, because that card is smaller than the stamp, you may miss a bit. Okay, so that is another way of doing that. Now, the other things that I want to say, and what I've actually realized is I haven't got a chamois upstairs to clean the ink off. So I am going to look at the state of my hands already. I'm covered in ink. I'm going to have to run downstairs and go and get a chamois, because I'm going to have to clean this quite a bit. So whilst I'm gone, carry on adding. What crafts do you do, and are you messy? All right. Okay. So my sink now is covered in green ink, because that was what was all over my chamois. Okay. So let's start out with this, which I think I might leave the grid paper down. Is the grid paper making your screens flicker? Sometimes it does with the like resolution of the camera. Let me know. So here I have pieces of this stamped. Brilliant, thank you. So I've done Mossy Meadow, Shaded Spruce, Soft Seafoam, Old Olive and Garden Green. So I've stamped and I have fussy cut. So look, these are all the greens. And I thought what I would do is just cut out some of the leaves, because obviously if you just ink this up with one color, you are just going to get one color of leaves, and that's fine. But what I thought was we could have a little play with some different colored leaves. So I have already fussy cut them, because you didn't need to see me fussy cut. And I'm going to stick them down. And actually, what I need to be is a little bit strategic to make sure that everything will fit. Yeah, there we go. So let's do that. So I'm not worried about things kind of hanging over the edge, because what I'm actually going to do is trim it off in a minute. So obviously what you can do with this is, if you stamp all your different leaves, is you could cut out all of them. I just didn't for the purposes of today's craft and chat. Oh, now I've got to lift that up a little bit. Yeah, so for those of you that have joined a bit later, the questions for today are: what types of crafts do you do? All of them. And are you a messy crafter? So do you tidy as you go, or do you leave it all till the end? Or are you like me, where everything is chaos? Let me know. So I've stuck them all down. I'm just going to flip it over and trim them off. And obviously you could use these little trimmings if you wanted to, but I'm in a very tidy way going to stick them over there. And look, you see, this can go like that. That's just, I've just got to trim that little bit. That's a little bit there that doesn't need to be there. Bear with me. There we go, that's better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Mossy Meadow ink. Now, this is something that I do often, and I don't talk about it as much as I should. So when you have a cardstock layer or a patterned layer, and you're going to stick a white layer or vanilla layer over the top, most of this is never seen. You've only got like a teeny weeny bit around the edge. So it is absolutely a really good thing to do to punch out a few bits from the back, because nobody's ever going to see that. And the reason I've done it for this is I'm going to use this Something Fancy, the thank you stamp. And I'm just going to pop that there. And then I am going to figure out which way round we're going to go. I think, ooh. It's all right, I'm just deciding which way up we're going to go. We're going to go this way, actually, like that. So let's stick this down. Like so. Let's get some dimensional pads. for my thank you. And that's going to go like that. So that's garden green layer, and this is an old olive layer. Like I said, nobody's ever going to see the fact that that's got holes in it. And there we go. Oop. I've got glue on the back. I'll deal with that in a minute. So you've got a lovely multi-toned card, and it's very similar to the original, but we've got lots and lots of different colors. So let me just clean that stamp, put that ink pad away. Those bits away. I'm going to flip my grid paper over because there's now glue on it. Okay. Okay, so that is one way. So you can just stamp your your stamp. You can just ink your stamp and stamp it and get single color or work with multiple colors. What I want to do now is work with some autumnal colors. So I've got pumpkin pie, Cajun craze, and real red. And I've got some layers, and I've got a pumpkin pie and a Cajun craze layers there. And what I'm going to do is ink the whole thing up with pumpkin pie. Now, whilst I'm inking this up, I want to talk to you about your ink pads. So we all know that Amanda over inks her ink pads because I'm enthusiastic, and yeah, I'm too heavy-handed and I put too much ink on. So you can see here there are a few bubbles, and that's basically because my ink pad's a bit too juicy. So if you have that, don't worry. What potentially can happen is it will break up the image a little bit, but I'm going to be breaking up the image anyway with the technique that I'm going to do next. So, but that's a good way of knowing that you've got too much ink on your ink pad. There are a couple of ways you can fix that. So you can either get a piece of cardstock and squash it on your ink pad and lift the ink off, so there's not as much ink in there. But obviously that's wasteful as far as ink is concerned. Your other way is to get the back of a spoon or a bone folder that you've just used for this purpose and just squish the ink to one end and use the end that's not quite as inky to ink up your stamps. So the whole stamp is currently old olive. No, pumpkin pie. So now I'm going to take the real red and a sponge dauber, and I am just going to add a few bits of real red here and there. And I'm not actually worrying too much about where I'm going. I'm just sort of randomly putting it down. And then the same with the Cajun craze. Now you will be able to see, because the Cajun craze is quite a lot darker, you will be able to see that a little bit more. And actually, as I'm tilting this, you can probably see the shading in the different colors a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this is the technique that I talked to you about earlier, which is to put the cardstock on the top of it I'm just trying to figure out which way I'm going to go. So I'm going to put it there. I'm going to bring my grid paper up over the top, and then I am going to rub over the whole of the top. Lift it and then peel it up, and you never know what you're going to get. How cool is that? I love it. Favorite techniques, that. So let me just push that to one side and just clean this, because I'm going to be putting different colors on it again in a minute, so I'll give it a chance to dry and be nice and clean. Okay, so this time I'm not going to punch out from here. I'm going to just put a white piece on there with Cajun Craze ink, I think. So I'm going to do another thank you. And I've done it, I've stamped it in Cajun Craze, so it just pulls together from that layer. So we'll just stamp that as well, stick that all down together. So let's see. Daphne says she's untidy until projects are finished. She does sewing, cross stitch, embroidery, jigsaw puzzles and artwork. She now clears up as much as she can each day. So I love puzzles. I love jigsaw puzzles. But for me, it tends to be a Christmas treat. We have a Christmas one that we get out every year, which is really lovely. And it's I've talked about these before. It's Wentworth's jigsaw puzzle, and it's wooden, but it's like abstract. It's cut in an abstract way, so it's not as straightforward as a standard jigsaw. It's really lovely. There we go. Let's pop that down there. There we go. So there's a second version. Now I have done a green version here. So this is again the Mossy Meadow, Garden Green and Old Olive. And can you see how broken this is? And this is mainly because I use the sponge dauber, and it lifts off some of the colors. But I love the kind of distressed effect of that. So, you know, so it can be whatever you want it to be, really. So that's a couple of cards there. And you can see what I've done here. This is my favorite iridescent striped ribbon. Everyone needs to put that in their next shopping basket. When you go shopping for Stampin' Up products with me, you need to put one of these in your basket, because it just goes with everything. It doesn't matter what color it is, it goes with everything. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so I have a last card, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move those three out the way, because there is a potential that I could get ink on them, and I don't want to do that. So I've got some watercolor card, and you know I said there was blue, so there is blue. So that's Blueberry Bushel, Gorgeous Grape, Melon Mambo, or is it Berry Burst? No, Berry Burst. And I've got markers. As well. So what we can do, as well as ink it up with the stamp and ink it up and change the colour with the sponge daubers, is we could colour the leaves with markers. And that is what I'm going to do. So I am just, you can chat amongst yourselves. I am just going to colour this whole stamp with markers. Now, I can understand that you might be going, oh man, that can take hours. It isn't. But there are a few tips that will make it easier for you. So I am holding, so if I put that there, I am holding my marker pen as flat as I can. So the flat end of that brush tip is what's colouring these leaves. And by doing that, you get the most coverage. And it just makes things easier. So I'm going to colour 3 in this berry burst. Oh, gorgeous grape. We're just double checking then, making sure it was gorgeous grape. All right. So that's that one. Let's go. So this is a Blackberry Bliss. Now this is actually it's such a dark color, so you really don't want to put too much of this down. Let's go with blueberry bushel now. Now I am waiting for somebody to say, Amanda, these are not leaf colors. This is crafting. This is my imagination. And I just thought it would be really cool to have pink and purple and blue leaves. I don't know. I don't know what kind of world we would be in if we actually had these as pink and blue leaves, but it's kind of fun to do different things, isn't it? So I'm just going to put that darker one there. And that one there. Okay. So have a sort of pick up and a look and see if you've missed any bits. And oftentimes you will have, and the ink sometimes it just doesn't quite cover. So just go over any bits that look as though they're missing. But the joy of this technique is it kind of replicates watercolor. So it doesn't matter too much if you haven't quite covered it over completely. So I've used the Stampin' Up markers here, and I've got the watercolor paper, and my plan is to stamp the entirety of this onto the paper. And what I'm going to do first is get my water spritzer. Now, those of you that did the watercolor workshop with me, just as a reminder, we've got another one coming out in January. The details will be out at the beginning of November. So if you did the watercolor workshop with me, you'll know, but this is a really, really important thing. If you are working with watercolor paper, to spritz the reverse of your paper before you start. And the reason that's important is because it stops it from curling up too much. Okay, so I'm now going to take this. I'm just going to move that paper out of the way, and I'm going to spritz it. Now, we're not talking about flooding it. You know, I don't want the water to run, but equally, it needs to be wet. It needs to re-moisten all of this ink. So I'm going to pull this back. And I'm going to use both hands, as I said before, and we're going to pop this down. And I'm going to pop it down and I'm going to press it down. And actually, the other thing, if you struggle with getting a good image with a big stamp, stand up and lean on it. Because your body weight will help. And this is kind of a faux watercolor, so be aware. It might not be perfect, and you never know what you're going to get. So let's just lift it up. Oh, that is so cool. Do you want to see? Da, da, da. I love that. That is so cool. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of batik fabric. Those of you that have seen that. That is really lovely. So I know there's still ink on here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a little bit more spritzing. And I'm going to plonk that down on there as well and see if we can kind of get like a second generation going there. Let's lift it up. How cool is that? Look. This is normal cardstock. This is watercolor cardstock. I don't know. There might be enough ink for one more. Shall we try? There might not be. It might start puddling and pooling, but we can try, can't we? Yeah, so now what's happening is you've barely got any ink, but some of the Cajun craze and the pumpkin pie is coming through there from sort of around the sides of the stamps. So I won't be using that one, but I will be using these two. That is super cool. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so I'll put that one side for another day. And I think we'll go with that. I'm going to get rid of that because it's wet. And get my trimmer. So I'm going to trim that bit off just there first. And then I need 5 1/4. Right, so I've ended up, so that's my layers, and then this piece can decorate the inside. Now I'm just going to stick this on top. I am not gluing this right now because it's still wet and it's just not going to sit properly. But if you check my blog out, Amanda's using her cardigan to wipe up the water. Yeah, I want to stick it once it is dried. I don't want to stick it whilst it's wet. But that will be the finished card. I will use, if I get all of the others out, I will be using, actually, let's just do that now. Where's my punch gone? This is the problem with being a messy crafter. When you're mid-flow, you actually don't know where things are. So I'm going to use the blueberry bushel just to ink up that stamp because I didn't bring the ink pads upstairs. There we go. Okay, so it will it will go like this, and I'll have a lovely thank you on, and then this is our original card, and then this is our sponge daubed card, and then that's one alternate, and then this one will be a second alternate. So you will be able to see all of these on my blog. Usually I do my blog post on a Thursday or a Friday with all of the sort of completed projects and so on. So I love this too. I love this. Difficult. Which one's your favorite? Anne says she's chaotic in card making and she does a little bit of sewing and a little bit of knitting. Thank you. Yeah, you're loving the cards. Good. I'm really pleased, Anne, saying thank you for the tips using a big stamp. I think sometimes we don't use certain things or we don't get certain things because we're not quite sure that we're going to be able to use them. And I think that these background stamps are so versatile. Yes, you can use them as background stamps, but the reality is you can use them for elements and different pieces as well. I mean, these leaves, whenever you need a leaf, there is going to be a shaped leaf for you. So that's good. Donna's saying she thinks she likes this second generation one. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the ultimate kind of grungy one, and I like the fact that the Cajun craze has kind of picked up on some of the corners or some of the edges. So very cool. Thank you so much for joining me and hanging out with me this week. I will be back here next Tuesday at 2:00. For those of you team members that I'm going to be seeing on Saturday, I'm so looking forward to it. If you are doing the Christmas retreat, the kits will be going in the post at the end of this week or the very beginning of next week in time for the Christmas retreat the following weekend. And then it'll be craft along. So things are all happening here. But everything that you've seen today is available in my online store. So you can pop over to www.inspiringinking.com. Let me just pop that up there like that. Inspiringinking.com, and you will be able to see all of the products and shop with me there. So take care of yourselves. I will see you all again next week. Goodbye.